We're going to show a clip of a young player in the developmental stages, in her formative years, who later became an NCAA champion. You're going to see her hit overheads. Now, we can show you all her shots. She had to totally rebuild her game. But on her overhead, she was doing what was logical, intelligent. Ball goes up. The player sees their target through the net, straight ahead, downward. Now, the overhead of all the shots, you have to swing up the most. But what's very common is the palm-up position, where you put the racket like you're carrying a tray. We call it pizza position. Have to remember three things. Pizza position, pull down. Player uses a forehand grip. The grip sets the angle of the racket face. The angle of the racket face determines the angle of the racket path, and then the body will match the path of the racket. So the player swings straight ahead, they face straight ahead. And then they have to make the change. They have to change the grip, the swing, the body. So the player, a lefty, she changes to a continental grip. Now the racket's in the salute position. Three things. Angle of the racket face is closed. Now the swing can go up. Salute position, comb the hair, talk on the telephone, twisting action where you give the ball the high five, check out the watch on your wrist, put the racket to the pocket. You'll see shoulder rotation, and you'll see a completely different overhead. So let's take a minute, and we'll look at that tape. Now this is filming day one, first lesson. Let's let the tape run, and we'll look at her overhead. You can see the forehand grip, palm up, facing straight ahead. This is what we call the pre-tape. And then you're going to see several years later. Now the tape is dated. We should have dated the first tape. But now she's using the op hand or opposite hand. She's turning. The racket's in the salute position. And she can swing up. So she's changed the grip, the swing, and the body. Now this should create a wow factor. This young girl went on and won an NCAA championship title. Okay, now let's look at it in slow motion. The overhead from the first showing, the pre. You can see palm up equals elbow down. But again, it's logical, intelligent to put the racket in this position. Now she ends up facing the net. Then at the impact point, from her toes to her nose, she faces forward. So it had to be analyzed. The onset of the problem. She's in junior high. She's a 7th grader. Now let's look at her overhead 4 years later. Now the second showing, the post, the overhead changed. You see she uses her opposite hand. The opposite hand allows her to relax the muscles in her left arm, change her grip. She sets the racket in the most efficient angle. She's definitely turned. Oh, we could say, yeah, she could turn more, get more than sideways to stay sideways. Now the racket's going to come around like she's combing her hair. Now she's talking on the telephone. She's decelerated her right arm. Her body is definitely at a 45-degree angle. Now she has extension. So there's definitely a change. And then how the forearm turns out, pronates. So now let's review, let's summarize in the classroom. So that's an example of documenting development. The pre-film on the overhead, pizza position, pull down. Second filming, salute position, twist up. The player was filmed grade 7. For us, that was the first lesson. That's what we did on the first day. Now, she had played years of tennis, so she had to have years to relearn how to play. Grade 9, she won a 5A doubles title, high school, tennis, state of Texas, her and her partner, serve and volleying every ball. Well, if you're in this position, you're going to be a player who's competent, confident at the net. But if you're like this, you're only going to the net to shake hands and pick up balls. One thing with her mom had the foresight for her to change her strokes and to persevere and to stay the course. Why? Simply, her mother saw other students that we were training develop. But it comes down that you have to be able to hit the ball well. You cannot have holes in your game. You have to have an overhead. You have to have a serve. So obviously the player, she served palm up as well. And we have that on film. She had to change her service motion. But for me, I think for anyone, I mean, an NCAA championship player, it's not winning Wimbledon, but wow, and especially Stanford, that means you're the complete package, student athlete. But again, it comes down to hitting the ball well. And it's very good for people, parents, players to see this type of film because Mom and Dad, your child can also climb the ladder of college tennis, but just keep in mind, they have to have efficient strokes.